sociologist, I believe that individuals can make change within themselves, and I believe that individuals can be the starting point or impetus for social change. However, when individuals form into collectivities or form into groups, when they have a collectivity or group behavior, they have the power to transform society, or something that sociologists call social structure. Sociology is the study of patterned or group behavior. Moreover, sociologists are interested in why people behave the way they do, particularly in group formations. Sociology studies the way that people behave in patterned or repetitive ways. How many people in the audience think that their behavior is patterned? Put your hands. Almost everyone should be having their hand up at this point, because if you think about it, the way that you live your daily lives are very patterned. When you wake up in the morning, you tend to eat the same things for breakfast. You tend to have the same kind of routine to get yourself ready for school. You tend to come to school driving on the same route or taking the bus that is the same route. When you get to school, you tend to sit with the same people and talk to the same people in your classes, many times about the same things over and over again. Most of the time, our behavior is very repetitive and very patterned. We call these patterns of behavior social structure. Social structure is the pattern of routine, regular, ongoing, predictable, and repetitive interactions and relationships that guide behavior and relationships in society. Most of our behaviors are governed by social structure. How many of you have ever tried to stop doing something? So put up your hand if you've tried to stop smoking, or stop drinking, or stop swearing. Okay? Or how many of you have ever tried to start something new? For example, start to use your treadmill, or start to exercise, or start to eat a healthy diet. How many people find that very difficult? Right? Good. It's difficult because it involves changing our patterns of repetitive behavior. These patterns help to govern and guide our everyday interactions. We become very used to interacting with people in certain ways, and it's difficult to change those patterns. For that reason, social structure is very important because it leads to social order in our society and subsequently facilitates the process of social control. Right at this very moment, your actions, and to some extent your thoughts, are being controlled by social structure. How do I know that? Because you're sitting nicely and listening politely to what I have to say. Many of you are hungry, you want to go get a drink, many of you want to plug your ears, some of you want to tell me to be quiet, but you're not. You're sitting respectfully. And you knew that you were going to do that even before you came and sat in this chair, because you know what's expected of you when you attend a lecture at Fanshawe College. How many of you are new to Fanshawe this year? Okay. Did you have any idea what the college would be like before you came here? Okay. Probably you did. What kind of things did you know about? Well, you probably could anticipate the way that your professors would interact with you. They're going to act with you in a very respectful way. You could probably also anticipate the way that you were going to act with your fellow students. These relationships become very patterned, and regardless of who's in the position of student, who's in the position of professor, who's in the position of person working at importance, we tend to interact in the same ways. This is what we call social structure. And social structure is very important because it creates order in society. It's necessary to have order. But what about when we think about things that are negative in our society? What about things like racism, or gender inequality, or poverty? How about homelessness? Are those things guided by social structure as well? What do you think? Yes, of course they are. It only makes sense that if our positive behaviors, or what we need to facilitate social order, is governed by social structure, then so too are these negative aspects of society. So the question that I have for you is, what is the connection between social structure and the transformation or change of society? If we want to change the structure of society, let's say we don't like racism, we want to get rid of inequality, we want to get rid of poverty, we want to get rid of homelessness. If we want to change the structure of those things in our society, then we need to transform the very structure of society. That means that we need to change the patterns of our behaviors in interactions in order to eliminate some of these wide-scale social problems. It's difficult because the actions of one individual might be the impetus or starting point for social change, as we've seen here. But one individual cannot change the structure of society. Why? Because the patterns of one individual do not change the patterns of others. Let's say a class member in your class comes to school, they've decided they're going to wear a bikini and do a hula dance that day. Okay? They're going to do this. Okay? We might think that person's vegan, we might think they're crazy, but it's not going to change the overall structure of your classroom. The same thing applies at a wider scale level. If you decide that you don't want to be racist anymore, you're not going to make racial comments that are derogatory, that's not necessarily going to change the structure of racism that's embedded within our society. Therefore, from a sociological perspective, if we want to change our behaviors to eliminate some of these social structural problems, then we need to form together as a group or a collectivity to change the overall pattern of our behavior. And change at the level of society is what we need. We need to come together to realize that we're in solidarity as a group of people who together want to change the social structure of our society. Therefore, from a sociological perspective, power lies in the ability for people to come together as a collectivity and realize their connection to one another and their ability together to transform the social structure.